Craziest thing about the Canadian debate on immigration is that liberals will call you hateful if you say it's not sustainable for Canada to allow 1.2, 1.3, 1.5 million people into the country a year. Yet, when you really think about it, they're the ones who hate the Canadian citizens. The ones who are saying that we need to allow unvetted, unfettered immigrations really hate Canadian people. If you look at the standard of living in this country over the past decade, we are sliding closer and closer to a third world country, and the link between unfettered, unvetted immigration and the decline in living standards is undeniable. Look at a stat on GDP per capita in Canada over the past decade. Look at a stat on housing prices in Canada over the past decade. Look at a stat on wait times in ERs in Canada in the last decade. Every major indicator of how a country is doing, the overall well-being of the average citizen, has gone down and down and down. Yet the liberals will call you a xenophobe or a racist if you point out the clearly declining living standards. But turn around on them. They're clearly the haters. They're the ones who hate average and lower class Canadians who are getting decimated by these unfettered immigration policies. You know who's lobbying the strongest for the immigration? You know who the liberals are standing with shoulder to shoulder and saying we're in favor of unlimited immigration? It's Uber, it's Tim Hortons, it's major companies. These are the ones who are lobbying the absolute hardest, and the 15,000 businesses that take advantage of the temporary foreign workers program and the so-called immigration mobility program, which have a combined 3.1 million users in the year 2025, despite the fact that unemployment rate in Canada is the highest among G7 countries at 7.1%. Youth unemployment is 1 in 4 Canadian male youth are currently unemployed. So the liberals are the ones who are actually the hateful ones towards middle and lower class Canadians. You are standing with Uber. You are standing with Tim Hortons. Over 50% of immigrants coming into this country work jobs like service industry, Uber delivery drivers. You're telling me that the 1 in 4 unemployed Canadian male youth would not be willing to take that job? BS. You're telling me that the 7% of Canadian workers who currently can't find a job are unwilling to take those jobs? That's absolute BS. Why is it when Japan, when China, when they say we are sovereign countries and we're not going to allow mass immigration in, it's absolutely fine in the liberal mind. But if a Canadian stands up and says we clearly cannot withstand this level of immigration, you're a hater. It's so backwards. It's so backwards, and the stats back me up 100%. Standard of living in this country, I know the latte sipping liberal may not necessarily notice this, but the amount of crackheads on our streets has multiplied by a factor of 10 over the past decade. This country, if you actually live in cities, I've lived in Montreal, I've lived in Toronto, I've lived in Ottawa, it is unrecognizable from what it was just a decade ago, let alone 25 years ago. Like I said, these liberals, I know a lot of these liberal elites live in these enclaves where they don't see how the common folk live, but it's just an undeniable fact that the mass immigration to this country over the past 5 years in particular, where they've just totally turned the spigot off and said we're allowing over 1 million people into Canada a year, has had a massive impact on the lives of day-to-day Canadians. And it is not a hateful thing to say. I think that the government's primary responsibility is to look after the citizens who elected them, the citizens in this country, the citizens who have ancestors who fought valiantly at Vimy Ridge, at World War II. Rather than handing our tax dollars over, immigrants eligible for up to $283 a day. I think that the 2 million Canadians using food banks could go for that $283 a day. The Rainbow Refugee Program, which is LGBTQ refugees showing up in the country having their entire first year paid for. It's not a hateful thing, it's a loving thing to say that, hey, look, government, we have a hell of a lot of issues that you've created in Canada. How about spending some of those tax dollars on the Canadian citizens who are struggling rather than immigrants? The hateful thing is actually to say that we should support immigrants to this country before Canadians, when we have 2 million of them, a record 2 million of them using food banks. shutting down the TFW, which currently has over 240,000 people enrolling in a year, shutting down the Immigration Mobility Program, which in the year 2025 alone has 1.9 million people on it, and you don't even need to fill out an LMIA. You don't even need to make the argument that you're hiring a foreign worker because you can't find a Canadian. You can just pay the $230 fee with the IMP and you're good. You're good to go. You're good to go to hire a foreign worker when we have the highest unemployment rate in the G7. It's disgusting, and it's traitorous behavior by our government. Don't let these far left whack jobs tell you you're some sort of a hater or a racist. It's so ridiculous. I don't care if you're black, green, blue. I think the Canadian government's primary responsibility is to Canadian citizens. Throughout the majority of human history, that's been the obvious logical conclusion. Sovereignty and free speech are the pillars of Western civilization. It's only since this whack job left-wing liberal view has started to dominate Canada, where the people say a man can become a woman can become a man. These are the people who are now telling you you're a xenophobe if you say that Canada cannot afford any more immigrants. No, these people are driving the country into the shitter, and you can't be ashamed to say it. You cannot be ashamed to say it. It's self-love. It's a love for Canada to say we cannot do this anymore. There's absolutely nothing hateful about these people. Shove their head in the sand, and they are actually the hateful ones. If you don't buy into their far left wacky ideology, they're going to call you names no matter what. So you might as well just stand up and say, I'm a patriotic, proud Canadian who's defending my country. That's why I'm hosting the Take Canada Back rally Saturday, September 13th, noon, Parliament Hill. I want to get thousands of proud, patriotic Canadians out. Send a message to this traitorous government that's sending our money overseas, that's wasting our money on green initiatives, that's seeing the infrastructure of this country be decimated. Enough is a goddamn enough. Take Canada Back rally Saturday, September 13th, noon. Please like, share, subscribe, join, become a member, help get this movement going off the ground up. If you're watching on TikTok, I'm over 16,000 followers, and the Canadian government doesn't like dissidents. So please make sure you're following on YouTube, youtube.com/@FightForCanada. Canadian patriots have had enough.